time to get started. Word Crawl 2018. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Word Crawl. Come on, let's do it. My name is Roxanne Borg, and I'm here to MC for the evening, and hopefully you will enjoy the lineup that we have. This is our 5th annual Word Crawl event. It's a fundraiser for the Festival of Words. We're so happy you're here, and we want you to sit back and enjoy the words that you're about to hear. It's been fabulous so far. We're going to hear poetry, stories, songs, creative expression. Each person gets 10 minutes, and it's pretty strict. I have to introduce to you our timekeeper, who is Sally Dolan. Let's give Sally. Okay, so Sally will hold up some fingers and tell you how many minutes the right fingers, yes. How many minutes you have left, and she will guide us through the process, and I'm going to be the one who introduces everyone. For all of you performers, your time is 10 minutes, and so if you want to add anything personal, that's part of your 10 minutes. So the timer's on, guys, so keep it quick and brief. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first poet. Her name is Sandra Starr. Sandra has a novel in progress, The Road to Indigo, and it led her to Brobridge from Tacoma, Washington for research. She moved here in 2014, and she's the executive director for Tesh Center of the Arts in Brobridge. Her poems have appeared in Yarn and Mockinghart Review. She has a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing. And I really like this part. Thank you, Sandra, for sharing this. She said that she couldn't move away from here because she loved the people here. And I just think it's great. So let's give her a warm welcome. Sandra.
Thank you, Roxanne. I'm a little shorter than you are, even in my heels. Well, hi, everybody. I'm fresh off of an event that we had at TCA today. It was about the Louisiana Trail Riders, and there's a man named Jeremiah Arias who's done a beautiful book of black and white photographs, and he came along with some riders today. So we had a wonderful program, and now I'm happy to be here with y'all. I'm going to start with a poem that I wrote in response to a photograph of Leo Tuchet's, and this was an exhibition that he had at Acadiana Center for the Arts about a year ago. And this poem is in response to a photo of Leo's that depicts an old woman in an old fire truck, and she's kind of crusty looking. It's called Siren. She was one of the best damn tassel dancers in New Orleans. What some called a cat called a sleazy heat seeker, a holy hellraiser, pacing the stage all glittery and shimmying, a regular hardcore harlot, so says her ne'er-do-well daddy, the backdoor cash taker. Now she chases flames, not to stoke, but to extinguish. A truck, not tassels, the tool of her trade. No one can drive like her, red blaze of speed, light flash and siren wail. She owns the driver's seat, watches both ways. Horn blaring, warning, get out of my way. Townmen, they are still chasing her fire truck. Some nights, in silence, she hears one man's old coat knock on her door. He meets her in dreams. Those nights, she awakens with a trace of a smile and lights a lucky strike. And I'm told that I don't usually read, I haven't read a lot at Word Crawl, but I have read, and I don't read at night, so I'm told I can use the F-bomb and stuff like that. So I might throw it in there indiscriminately here and there. We'll see. Okay, my next poem is called Elegy for the Erotic, and it's inspired by Stanley Kunitz and Stephanie Hemphill. I'm saturated with impulse, oozing juice like honeysuckle, raw and succulent. We fit like Lincoln logs notched together at pleasant angles in intermittent syncopation, moving to the rhythm of creation. The first impulse arises as a gift, effortless, an urge, like a catcher's mitt-sized magnolia blossom beckons in May. I can hardly say this pleasure except to get down to the tissue of the place where pleasure lives. This is where I go looking and find it coiled and waiting. I blow on it and I become it once again, pleasure in winter. Outside my window, the Japanese magnolia tree shows its bones in November, leaves fallen and brittle. Buds emerge in December and offer purple perfume while most other flowers dream. There's an impulse at work even after sand castles and snow cones melt. Subtle pulses, road signs, if you notice, tingle and tease. Bliss drips in places waiting to be known. This is a kind of pair, it's a twin poems, if you will, inspired by a visit to the garden at Rosedown Plantation in St. Francisville. And after I did some reading about that garden, I realized that the woman Martha, who was, Martha and her husband owned the plantation, it was Martha's garden, but really it was Augustus, who was a slave at Rosedown, who worked very closely with Martha. So I've written this poem, it's called Possession, and it's for Augustus, a slave owned by Martha at Rosedown Plantation. Beneath a shadow arc an oak tree would make is where I started and where we'd meet when you no longer owned me and I could leave. I fingered the blade of the budding knife you bought me and charted the stands of japonicas I grafted for your pleasure garden, a slave made to labor. You could not keep me from inhaling this living garden of delights made by my hands for others' senses. Azaleas are what I crave, still after digging 80 holes that day to plant saplings you bartered for bale cotton with that man down river. I arranged their roots and gave them my songs. I drew from the earth fruit trees and food to fill your larder. Now you come down the alley wanting me to catch a hog and shave its hair to plant with the Irish potatoes under the full of the moon. Harder, once I knew I was valued at $900 when I was 16. Some believe you knew me better, and that's why you relied on me to carve out your parterre. With my only possession, I give you one last drop of blood, no more to grieve. And the mirror, if you will, poem to that one is called Omission. And this one's for Martha, who owned Augustus at Rosedown Plantation. Nothing is changed. I am what I was. My hair spooled out behind me that dewy morning, my body folded next to the hedgerow, back then a flower, this garden and me. I had visions for what we would be, fragrant, orderly, axial vistas, inviting the visitor deep into my pleasure ground. Now I sit in a green iron chair, hair clipped and netted like last season's berry vines, past their prime. I I look beyond the conservatory, the summer houses of lattice and benches and empty of laughter and song, so long since Augustus laid in the japonicas with his knife and his birdsong notes, creating this shelter of merciful shade. Augustus made this place, one bud knife cut after the other, shovel dug in dirt, patterns laid with sticks and string. This land received his sweat and song, answering him in acres of color and form. He heard the French travelers praise my living creation. Augustus watered and watched. Why should I disappoint them with the truth? Why tell them that this garden was born of my slave's imagination and his spine bent for 30 years to my will? This is a poem that I wrote after Otto Warmbier, the young man who was imprisoned in North Korea, came back to his home in Ohio, and not for long. It's entitled Boy with Dark Eyes, for Otto Warmbier. Tousled hair grazes lashes lining dark eyes, cleft chin beneath full lips, this picture hinting at what might be. Your backward glance, captured for eternity, belies where a tide will carry you. You cross boundaries, crisscross time zones and oceans on a mission to grow. The prescient set of your jaw and pure gaze when you were 8 and sat in the portrait studio down the road should have told us that you'd go one day, that you'd leave the shady heartland lanes for foreign lands of strangers. Eyes wide open, barely 22, a university student, you stand in front of cameras and accusers in your khaki jacket and tie, crying you're sorry for ripping a poster of soldiers from a wall. Worst mistake of my life, you plead. In your boy portrait, you are framed in black, the unknown, what now can be viewed as ominous. You are not afraid. You are resolute. You hold the whole world by the tail on a downhill pull. Later, on the other side of the globe, darkness shrouds your young man's self, trapped in a shadowy world of international forces, hidden and ravenous beyond what youth could fathom. You got caught in the crosswinds without sensing them swirling. You completed your journey from home and back, eyes glazed, voice mute, eyes closed forever now. What did you see that you will never be able to say?
Yay, That's it.
How's my time?
You're done.
I'm done. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandra. We want to remind you that the Festival of Words is a cultural arts collective that supports Word Crawl, and we really appreciate Dat Dog for sponsoring us here tonight. Let's give him a big hand. Make sure you're belly up to the bar and buy some drinks and buy some food and support our sponsor. Next, we have a real treat. We have teachers who are poets, and they're going to come and join us on the stage. They have 10 minutes, right? I don't know. Wait, hold on. So continue to, okay, thank you. I can't hear up here. Well, that's not, okay. All right. We got it? Okay. First one up is Kyla Ardwam. Kyla is a master teacher at Northside High School of History and English. She's also enrolled in doc program at UL Lafayette. Let's welcome Kyla Ardwam.
Okay, so my first poem is called Saint Kathleen. She kept a rosary in her pocket and wore a scapula around her neck. So many memories of laughter and wine drinking. We had meaningful conversations about gratitude and memories. She was scared, not that she would say so, but I could feel it reverberating off of her. She might have been more beautiful on that day. She was vulnerable and raw. Her spirit was all that was left of her. No material things to cover up her soul. She had no use for her diamonds or her 3 closets full of expensive clothes or her fancy car in her garage. She had white, wispy, baby-fine tufts that are reminders of her long blonde hair. I rubbed her head and held her like my own child. We talked about death as if it's inevitable, downplayed it even, saying, "It's nothing but that white light that Grandma used to talk about. It's that peaceful feeling that warms up your insides, or maybe those dreams you have at night." We defined acceptance, and I helped her embrace the pain as she called out to Jesus to take her. She was ready. She told me to laugh and forgive. She told me to leave the bed unmade, the dirty dishes in the sink, and live. She told me to be authentic and to love hard. In the end, not like there really ever is an end. It's all about how much you loved. The cocoon is not her home anymore. The starkness blinded her. The purity is almost more than she can handle. It makes her uncomfortable for a moment. She is content in the dark, the gray, the morbid, the strange. It reminds her of the moment that almost escaped her if it hadn't been for the light, when she woke up from numbness, completely exposed. A thick, self-depreciating veil was lifted off of her head, the pinnacle moment when her life became chopped in half. She could see clearly for the first time. Life became a beautiful game that she could clearly understand. Physically, she could see the particles in the air change into glitter. The magic literally surrounded her. Time stopped. She became a creature with wings, and the light couldn't be contained. She felt the freedom of flight. Every aspect of her life is in exact proportion to happiness. This one is titled, My Bluebird. No one is here, and you pray. Your wrinkles on your face are intoxicating. I follow them like a road map to wisdom. Your life is blissful and simple, although you have always been alone. I wish I had enough time to spend with you in the winter of your life. You can soothe me with your chanting of the rosary. You smell faintly of rue and fresh-cut grass. You throw magnolia leaves in the wind to keep storms away. Like candles, and put names in black books for ongoing prayers. You keep gas masks and cans of food for upcoming days of darkness. You are the strong and independent woman that nurtured me as a child. You taught me magic. You are my bluebird, my mama.
Thank you, Kyla. We certainly appreciate teachers who teach writing. As a teacher of teachers, I can certainly tell you that we need it in our schools. And I would like to introduce to you Matt Cano, and he wants no description of who he is. He's just going to come be the mystery man up here. But I think Matt teaches, so let's give him some love.
Thank you. You guys look great. Thank you. Am I too loud? I don't know. Okay, all right. The first one is dedicated to the doc. It's called Thanks for the Beer. He reminded me yesterday that I should have a poem about him because his ego needs to be, pampered. So it goes like this. Daspit. Daspit drinks his amber, and he reads some of my work with his fancy pen. He tells me I have a cadence I can't ignore. He tells me that you guys are gonna like what I'm about to read. He orders another shot without saying a word to the bartender. Shit blew my mind. He smiles, he leans back, he gives me that reassuring look that we all know by heart. Then, the crazy son of a bitch tells me about some night he did in Baton Rouge. And you guys will not believe any of the shit that he told me. But I believe it. Because it made complete sense when he said it. All right. The next one is called... It's true. Thank you. This next... He even told me to give him my poems titles. And so right before we got here, I wrote all these titles, and I'm like, I don't do titles. And he's like, you have to have titles or you're gonna confuse the freaking audience. And I'm like, God damn it, Daspit. And so anyway, this next one is called The Second One. Right, you like that? You got it? All right. Thank you. In the beginnings, they have shady, presumptuous inceptions, and they claim bragging rights. And in the beginnings, they explain wars, they explain brutality, misogyny, the inexplicable, people's rash behavior, God. But beginnings rarely bring comfort. And it's still the first thing we resort to. As a teacher in school, I always hear, who started it? And that'll tell us everything you need to know. The graspable cure. It seems that the masses huddled in the corner, they need that. I've been weary my whole life, asking the price, the score, the purpose, as if the universe somehow owes me an explanation. As if the principles of nature care when the blinds go down and the sounds fade to nothing. Then what? We all want to know, but we're too scared to face it. Maybe that's why God gave us mirrors. And just like in this life, I'm gonna get no answers in the next. But I'm gonna keep asking. Don't ask me why. I got enough to worry about. Hey, right? Yeah? Hey, I'm glad you liked it. All right. I was nervous about that one. I almost ripped it out and said, no, man, that shit's too serious. All right, thanks, man. This next one is called Vodka. Oh, wait. That reminds me. All right. This really helps. Nervous. All right, here we go. My father once told me, when I was a young man, that I think too much. He said, son, this is gonna lead to problems. He was right. He said, you just have to accept what is. He said, find peace within and be a good man. And that's all you can do. My father once told me, there are other avenues though. Some are crooked, unlit, slippery, abandoned, they're crowded. And a wrong turn, you'll wind up like a hog in the slaughterhouse, stammering, what is this? Have you all gone mad? I told my kid the other night, there aren't many Columbuses nowadays, but greed is still alive and well. And the crumbling spirit is shorting out the connections. Live ammo is available in every corner market. Brief atrocities seem to be only discernible alternatives to the disconnected. But let's be real, we're tuning those out too. There is no end in sight, but we can keep telling ourselves it's gonna be over soon. We've been doing it since the cave days, and some things will never change. My kid suggested, either we don't want them to, or we can't imagine anything else, Dad. I told her, don't be the hog. Don't even get curious about what's in the barn. If you can, get off the farm, find a slow-moving stream, slap your belly in the mud, and let the sun shine on the pink. And I'm telling you right now, in Dat Dog, don't let the irony, miss you. Sooner or later, all of our numbers are gonna be punched. Thank you. This one's called Our Own Private Hot Tub. You can't keep going in circles asking why. You might as well be the frog in a kiddie pool as the sun heats it up, 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 until your legs sprawl and you float and you go back to the primordial mulch. My God, Find the door that reads exit. Hop the fuck up out of there. The why comes after you catch your breath on the other side. Yeah. I was told I can say the F word because it's after 8. All right. Daspit told me that, so, okay, all right. I'm not reading that one. Hold on. Hold on. All right. This one's called The Day I Found Out. The bottoms of my purple Converse tore, cherry holes burned through my khakis, salsa stained my buck snort shirt. Her tattooed ankles crossed, then they recrossed. She drank too much and she fell in the pool. Underneath the surface, her herb eyes stained blue and blurry. Ghostly makeup doesn't conceal the inseparable monsters and persistent tapping. We've grown accustomed to ignoring the ricochet of heartbeats when rhythm is lost. All right, thank you. And this is my last because I feel like you guys are fading away and checking your phones and wondering what's going on in your Snapchat storyline, novel, whatever. All right, so the most important person in the world to me is my wife. All right. If you haven't met her, she's absolutely super hot, and she's like the best mama in the world. I don't see her. She's somewhere in here. Oh, hey, there she is, right there. She's right there. Just sweet Melissa. The name of this poem. She told me not to do that, so I totally did it. The name of this poem is called Missy and the Picket Fence. Yeah, he's seen the picket fence. Summer afternoons, the sirens bounce off Johnston Street. My dog's ears perk up. Other dogs that are trapped howl about impending doom. She sits in an office chair. There's an ashtray from Scotland and a black-handled Yeti on the table. Her back is straight. Her hair is in a bun. She scans Twitter. She reads the New York Times. She's up in the Washington Post. She's aggravated at the absurdity of modern America. She's confused about its blind racism. The chicken fan whirs behind her, but her thick hair doesn't move. Cars slow when they pass because of a recent speed bump the city nailed in. She tells me to stop reading my book. She says, I didn't mean for you to stop reading. Then she says, she just read. Maybe it's a joke. Maybe she's asking me a serious question I'm incapable of answering because she doesn't give me the context. But it's never boring, not with her. She asks, who's playing on the iPod? I tell her it's Miles Davis. I ask, do you want me to turn it down? Absolutely not, she says. She reaches over and she wraps her hand over mine. Go get me a drink, she says. She blinks and she smiles. She's got the best smile. I stand, I stretch, I say, okay. I come back with a Coleman 4 and crack it open. I think you're pretty, she says. I think you're pretty too, I say. She tosses her empty over the 3-foot brick wall. Half the time she even makes it. You made it, I mention, handing her the can. She cracks open again. She puts it in her special cup. You know, she looks at me, serious. She says, we might win the lotto tonight. That would be fantastic, I say. We listen to the fan. We hear the crickets. Miles Davis ends. There's another set of sirens. We're lost in our dream of not having to go to work the next day. We're thinking of vacations and places we don't even know exist yet, but I guarantee we're going if we win tonight, my dog. What are you thinking about? She asks to her phone, but I know she's actually talking to me, but I don't look at her. Nothing, I tell her. Then what are you looking at, silly? You, I say. A dog howls. John Lee Hooker says something about his drugstore woman. No, you're not. Now I am, I say. She puts her phone on the table. She moves her chair closer, and she asks, what do you see? And I tell her, even though she knows. Thank you. You guys are so sweet. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. The man with no intro. We love him, huh? Last but not least, Acadiana Writing Project presents Josh Capps from UL Lafayette English Department.
Oh, Caps is in the house.
Capps is in the house, baby. Come and join us.
Hey, Josh, I'm your timekeeper.
You're not my time.
I'm your huckleberry.
I remember about a month ago, you stepping out early on the UNIV 100 thing. I was your timekeeper.
That's right.
Is everybody good?
Yeah.
Hey, is everybody good? You just heard Matt Canone read. Come on. Come on! I'm tall. That has nothing to do with Matt Canone.
That was a total height joke, and I caught that.
All right. Heightism.
I did. Sorry.
First of all, Jim, I was the one who stole your drink because they don't have this stuff together back there, and I just went ahead and poured it in mine. And that's why you turned around and said, "Where's my drink?" Second of all, I wanted, as the co-director of the Acadiana Writing Project, I wanted to say thanks for letting us be a part of this, and that we had this co-sponsorship, and it's great to be part of Word Crawl. And I don't know how many was anybody here? Where were they earlier at the Science Museum? Anybody at the Science Museum? We heard some great stuff. Did it come from Matt Canone? Because you heard his stuff, but no, just joking. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and read my stuff now. I got 3 poems tonight. I decided to write about Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
Well, fuck, I'll leave. I can cuss now. I heard from Patrice that I can cuss. Fuck, cunt, shit, pussy, fuck, whatever. You said that in your little thing. All right, this is number 1. This is called The Bandit. The first time you were on the Tonight Show, Johnny told you not to speak to him during the commercial breaks. You said, "I'm going to host this show at some point." And you did. Sterling Archer. Anybody get that? You the cool kids out there, the millennials. God bless you. I wish you'd vote more. Sterling Archer asked to buy you a drink and told you that he had an idea for a sequel to Gator. You said Gator was a sequel. And it was. Then Sterling Archer said, "My God, I almost punched you." You said, "No, you didn't." And you were right. When you and Clint Eastwood were fired from Universal on the same day in the 70s, you told Clint that he was in a heap of trouble. He asked, "Why?" You said, "What are you going to do with that fucking Adam's apple? I can always learn to act." And you tried. That small applause is from the real Burt Reynolds fans. Sally, I'm looking at you. In the back of a van, when Dirk Diggler, and I hear the laugh. Sally, you're laughing too on that one. So you are smoking up in at Boogie Nights.
Boogie nights.
Okay. In the back of the van, when Dirk Diggler and Reed Rothschild pitched you a movie series about a karate detective who kicks ass and treats women decently in the 70s, you asked, "What are their names?" They answered, Brock Landers, and Chester Rockwell. You said, that great Burt Reynolds laugh that nobody can capture. Those are great names. And they were. Brando told you that you were not a serious artist and you would never, ever, ever win an Oscar. You said, yeah, but I'll never get fat. And you didn't. Hey, y'all fat shamed. Watch out. We woke now. All right. All right, so the second one is about my grandpa. Like, this is a weird thing that happened. I had an agenda tonight, and then I realized, Jesus. I had an agenda tonight, and then I realized that I had to do other stuff, and then I ended up writing a scene about my grandpa, who I haven't seen in, I don't know, since he died. That's years. Like, everybody laughs at that. Come on. I have better jokes than that. But anyway, he was a womanizer, and he always took me to church on Sunday, and we always got home in time to see the football game. So, I don't know, maybe y'all can relate to that. He wasn't a Catholic, so maybe you can't, but he was a Baptist, but maybe you can. I don't know. But this is Don Brown, my grandpa. All right, this is called Another Sunday After Church. Doris showed up in a red dress. Where you been, he said. Jesus. She sat up at the pool hall to see the baby. I like that baby, he said. I know you do. Did you take your fingers and rub its gums? How long, she said, since you've been there? Baby has teeth grown. He thought of a haunch he had in the freezer. Good eating. Maybe he'd mosey down with it after dinner. Doris, he said, I have a crow to pick with you. I've got the fucking clap. Hell, Don Brown, I can't take credit on that. I rhymed it. You see, that's what poets need to do sometimes. He'd made a mess of beans and cornbread, and if she had buttermilk, they could watch the Cardinals on WGN because they were playing the Cubs, and the Cubs only play on WGN at that point because it's, you know, fucking in the daytime. They can't show MacGyver at night or whatever. She pulled up her dress, straddled his lap. The moon didn't know if it was up next. Her black rooster kept pecking his leg. Nothing to suit the Holy Ghost but a goddamn sacrifice. Alright. This is my last one, and before it turns all of you off, I just want to, Jesus Christ. I just want to say thanks. This is what, I mean, this lifts everybody up. This is great. Like everybody coming out for poems and shit like that. I'm not the best advertiser for poems, probably. Is James here? Where's James? Is James not here? James is right. James is the best advertiser for poems. Get up here and do a 5-second advertisement for poetry. Right now, come on. Tell me why poetry matters. Right now, James.
Go. Hey, real quick.
Yeah, real quick. None of this shit.
Tell me, right now. It's very simply, it teaches empathy.
That was the point of my fucking poem. So thanks for ruining it. Okay. All right. Now he obviously moved it down. It was always going to be a short joke. Okay, this last one is called There's no such thing as an apology poem. There's no such thing as an apology poem because poets aren't sorry for their shoes or their clothes or their general disposition, which prefers simile to honesty, and an apology means you clamp off a splint artery. I rhyme shit there. Pumping regret like a warm blood. Poets demand regret. Bad poets wish they had it. Wish they had some bad things happen to them and they didn't. Oh, Daddy, if only you would have treated me worse, I could have been a better poet. Needing a void they can whip into a visceral image. Bow tie with a clever illusion. And then secretly sort of whisper the real meaning at the end. And then move on. See? There's no apology in a shark lapping up in bloody waters, flesh dangled in his teeth like beads on the neck of a sleeping drunk. Mardi Gras, 2016. A shark smells what a drunk lives. Or there's no apology in her voice ordering wine, returning the wine, then giving a 10-minute wine lecture to the server of the wine about the distinction of the wine called Noir or Grigio? I got it? You're that person. Grigio. Agave 2015. Here's what a bar drunk does not. And there's no apology in a staring in her eyes for 3 straight minutes, a goofy exercise sponsored by a dirty hippie, an activity that demands you don't blink even as you want to, squeeze your lids shut because she's seeing too much Tom Cruise, the eating disorder, all of it, and you barely know what to do with her. Writing Project 2012. Staring deeply, she sees too much drunk. Wait. There's no apologies in. I do this. It's like performance poetry. It's slam poetry. Where's James? And it's stretching. All right. It must be some kind of sign. Performance art, taste, when you're just filling time with movement and props. Ask Gallagher. Or Carrot Top. Finally, there's no apology when your gut does somersaults as an only child, when your only sister, who's also an only child, tells me her mom is gone and both her parents have died. My luck feels her pain like grooves on a globe. Then I drunkenly fucking spin it viciously without a clue. There's no such thing as an apology poem. For that, now thank God that I'm not a poet. Because I'm sorry to those of you who've expected some sort of similes to connect all this, or sensory images to connect all this, or special effects to connect all this, or me telling jokes to affect all this. all I want is, first of all, Sally Donlin to give me the times up. And also, I want to say I'm sorry to Kat because I love her more than like anybody other than my wife. So that's it.
Thank you. You bet. Thank you.
Wow. You are tall. I am short. I'm short. You are tall. Yeah. Shit works. Okay. Thanks, Josh. Yeah. It's not awkward at all. Not at all. Okay, next up, we want to again thank Dat Dog for being our sponsor, and we also want to thank AOC. Next up, we have Elizabeth Burke. We're very fortunate because she divides her time between Louisiana and New York. Is that correct? And she's the author of 2 poetry collections, Learning to Love Louisiana and Louisiana Purchase from Yellow Flag Press. Her works appeared in many journals and anthologies. Her forthcoming book, Duet Photographer and Poet, is a collaboration with her photographer husband, Leo Touchette. Is that correct? Let's give a warm welcome to Elizabeth Burke.
So I guess I'm going to read some poems and shit like that. Whenever I read in Louisiana, I like to start with this poem because it kind of is. Did you fix this? Thank you. Okay, is that better? Okay, so when I read in Louisiana, I like to start with this particular poem because it kind of explains how I got here and why I write so much about Louisiana. Like many Cajun men, my husband is a very good cook. And on one of our first dates, he came to my house and he cooked for me. This poem is called Watching Him Peel an Onion. His hand, calloused, rough, wide as a catcher's mitt, hovers like a bear's paw over the basket, scoops up an onion, cradles it. Blunt fingers gently press, testing for tenderness, while the thumb rubs upwards over the first fragile layer of skin, stripping it away like tissue paper. With his knife, he cuts away the rooted ends and peels back layers, exposing the moist inside, then sets it down on the cutting board, where it waits, white and glistening, naked as my beating heart. What I didn't mention about Cajuns is that they all eventually return home, which I didn't know when I met him in New York. So now there is a flip side to everything. Relationships change, as you all know. This is the sequel. Marital arts. When a lover's gestures turn from endearing to unendurable, when a self-confident stride turns into an arrogant swagger, when a worldly sophisticate whose scope of knowledge first dazzled becomes an annoying know-it-all, and there are days when his teasing, which once made you blush with delight, now annoys the hell out of you, makes you want to light up a Lucky and punch out his lights. It would seem that your partner has plummeted from the pedestal, morphed into someone who no longer molds to the man-shaped space in your brain. Do you lock the stranger in your arms or deliver a roundhouse kick? Actually, both work. So Louisiana is still kind of like a foreign territory to me, with hurricanes, weird weather, weird little animals. This next poem is called Why I Admire Armadillos. What's that? I asked my husband, who had stopped the car to show me a tupelo tree. He's amused. You've never seen an armadillo? I don't answer. I couldn't tell the difference between goats and sheep in a field yesterday. Why is he surprised? It hunkers by the side of the road, a dense, humpbacked bundle, black marble eyes. It sits immobile, frozen with fear. Or maybe it's me who's frightened. I approach, drawn to this self-contained miniature dinosaur, prehistoric in its armor, ancient survivor. I later learn, when surprised or threatened, they leap 5 feet into the air in a futile attempt to escape, another endearing characteristic. How do they have sex, I wonder that evening? A question I've been asking recently about all living creatures, especially those of a certain age. Hardly, says my husband, punning. The article I find online, The Sex Life of an Armadillo, is more depressing than yours. It's strangely comforting. The male sniffs and paws the female, who kicks at him with her back feet. When ready, she lifts and wags her tail. Afterwards retreats into her burrow in her private shelled container. A solitary existence, no double messages, no conflict about invasion of space, no need to ask, was it good for you too? So I'm basically a city girl, and living in the Louisiana countryside has been, let's say, a challenge. My criminal mind. Our backyard, by day a scenic southern swamp, replete with lily pads, cypress knees, goes darkly sinister at night. Rain thuds on our wooden deck, deep-throated croaks and shrieks erupt from our pond. A sudden thunderous splash. Something has jumped into, or worse, is emerging from, the dark waters. Winds slap limbs against windows. Small animals whip through brush. Sounds that rattle me, city girl, living deep in Louisiana countryside, land of voodoo and vampires, fifalets and rougarous. My husband laughs at my nightly terror, cannot comprehend why I'm afraid to remain alone in our cavernous living room with its vaulted ceiling, wide picture window, no shades or bars, no cozy corners to hide. Who would come way back here, he says, tuning into his favorite crime show, where a woman, standing alone at her kitchen window, freezes as the floorboards creak and the camera shifts to something creeping across her deck. Okay, so I was warned not to talk about politics or religion down here, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So if is anybody really, really religious, please don't take offense or stuff some cotton in your ears. This poem is from our new book, about to be published, I hope. This is called God Visits Louisiana, 1860. He rode into town on a proud, prancing palomino. God held the reins tight, dismounted, tied his horse to a post, and went into the nearest saloon, ordered a few beers, and began bragging about earlier exploits. Mountains, dinosaurs, men. Then he moved on to later creations, the cotton gin, the steam engine, the sewing machine. Some of the regulars did not take kindly to this stranger in their midst, claiming he was God. They challenged him to a duel. God was cocky. I created you, he shouted. But God had little practice with the pistol, invented since he was last challenged. He called on John, a fast draw, and said, "Fight my battles, please. I'm going back into the saloon." God was last seen leading a horse out of town, a mangy pinto, not the one he rode in on.
Yay.
Am I done? Okay, I'll end with something a little snappier, a little happier. This is called line dance. Now, I did not come to Louisiana specifically to dance, as a lot of my friends did, but now that I'm here, I do it all the time. Line dance. We may not be the Rockettes, but baby, we can still boogie. I remember the first time I saw those silky legs on a stage swing out in a straight line, like grandma's knickers hanging on a clothesline, swaying in a hot breeze. I wanted to dance like a showgirl, all glamour and style, sassy butts bouncing back and forth, our steps in perfect unisons, so our bodies looked like one big wave undulating across the stage. And backstage, I wanted red roses, roving eyes to idolize my perfect lips, hips, legs. Alas, knobby knees, weak ankles, toes like cheese doodles prevented a dance career. So my life took a different turn. My husband, a dour man, refused to dance. So when I was alone, I pirouetted on my suburban parquet floors, broom in one hand, dustpan in the other, twisted to chubby while I dried dishes, shouted out loud with Ray Charles, and when James Brown came on, Mama swung her brand new bag around the room like a lantern in the arc of a shooting star. It's my time to dance now. It's my time to dance in a line, to swing and sway in perfect time. We may not be the Rockettes, but we can still boogie to rock and roll, swamp pop, and cowgirl rhythm and blues. And that poem is also in the new book. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Next up, we have Jacqueline Lewis Langston. She's a native of, she's not here? She's here. Hi. She's a native of St. Mary Parish. She's a public school educator, former board member of Teshland Arts Council, small business owner of Soulfully Yours Music, part-time keyboardist for the legendary award-winning blues recording artist, Mr. Henry Turner of Baton Rouge. Please give a warm welcome to Jacqueline Lewis Langston.
Loving this. Awesome. It's good to see everybody tonight. Well, the quintessential me and my roots are gonna just speak, if you don't mind. It's gonna be short. I have to. I said, all right. I know what I'm doing. All right, here we go. Oh, here it is. Old roots song when I grew up. It says this: something down in me telling me to go ahead, where there's something down in me telling me to go ahead. Yes, there is something down in me telling me to go ahead. I got a big voice. Go ahead, go ahead. And perhaps that day she may have thought that thought or sang that song, but I didn't know. But I tell you what, it was bouncing upon her brow as I saw her walk. And maybe it was a season or a year or a week. I really don't know, but I do know this, that yesterday I saw perfection. And her face was set like a flint. Her eyes danced and determined, her demeanor didn't give a hint. Yesterday I saw perfection. Have you ever seen perfection? Oh, her skin toughened by the Louisiana sun. She knew where she was going. And forgetting those things behind her, better had already won. Yesterday, I saw perfection. And if you live in Louisiana and go to Houma, it was right there on West Park and Main. She didn't even know that I noticed her, but I know he knows her name. Yesterday, y'all, oh, I saw perfection. quiet and bold was she. And although the sands of this life, oh yeah, this life keeps shifting, just remember, moving forward is always key. Thank you. And as we journey from yesterday, I gotta tell you a little bit of something about self-esteem, self-awareness, all this mindfulness. So I was just thinking one day, had a minute in between all the grading the papers and all the other football games, and I said to myself, exceptional. I say this word exceptional. And I just thought, I had 3 minutes, 5, you have 5 minutes for yourself to be mindful of what's going on. And exceptional, maybe this will resonate with some of us. Exceptional. Some lost hope, except me. I am. You are. We are. Tonight, we're exceptional. Exceptional. I am. You are. Exceptional. Regrouped, rehoped, reset, conquered, rejoiced. And every day, you get a chance to dream another dream. I am, and you see, you are. And what I do, why I do, because I do, and how I do, I am exceptional. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. That was exceptional. Quite exceptional. We want to thank everyone for being here. We have 2 more poets to come up. Next up is Teresa Roloff. Did I pronounce that correctly? And Teresa's running, y'all. She is running. She's a regular contributor to Community Chronicles and has articles published in other publications like Face and Abiz magazines. And she brings an excellent surprise to Crawl, and I'm going to let her tell you what the surprise is. And she's running, y'all. So let's get Teresa running.
Okay, the surprise is at the end. I'm going to read a few things. I may not have enough words like poop and all that, but we're just gonna hit this. This is an old one from when I had my college days, and I heard that we need to do some stuff for STEM. So this might qualify. It's called Supply and Demand. Long ago, I sat absorbing facts in classrooms geared to teach of life and destiny and how to eliminate strife in the world. In business school, charts and graphs were used to simplify the formulas of this and that. Applications of algebra, I've always heard, would come in handy down the road. Now I find it blows my mind that simple things progress through time, adopting values of an X or Y to bear the load of frequencies, percentages, square roots, and exponentials. To determine each solution takes credentials. Economics 101 was an enlightening course. It laid foundations for mathematical roots of everything. Y is supply and X is demand. The assumption is you use what you buy, which not only eliminates waste, it deters needless inflation. It sets the stage for the supply and demand rules of manufacturing and retail pools in determining the optimum output to generate profit. The theory carries on beyond the dollar. Should we ever run low on light, food, and water, the consequences that await might actually stop it. The X would mark our graves should such supply not meet demand. I prefer to never learn of this firsthand.
Yeah.
Here's one that's kind of close to home. It's called General Alfred Mouton. It's a revision from the first time it was read. Louisiana boy who just happened to be a governor's son did like daddy wanted. When it came to having fun, he was pushed from the nest and made to go to school way off to West Point. His daddy weren't no fool. Yet Alfred liked it better growing sugar cane at home, hanging with militia, stopping workers that might roam. And when the war broke out, it seemed a better way to hang out with his buddies, being hero for the day. He organized a regiment and led it through the war. The Southern independence from 62 to 64, yet we all know the motives have much more to do with slaves, keeping them commodities and making them behave. Alfred died in battle. He had just turned 35. He charged the Union troops in Mansfield. Then he was not one to survive. The militia remobilized with the rebels' fall and grew more dastardly and brutal, declaring theirs was law in defiance of defeat of the Union hand. But Alfred was gone, and his death was mourned by those who led, whose alliance was sworn. Yet in this day we can all see good reason to question its legacy. Mouton's family never registered the slaves it said they owned. Could it be they knew within their hearts that was not condoned with moral dictates? To own the souls of men can only rank in history as one of mortal sin. And yet, in April 1922, the statue, Mouton's statue, was erected in plain view by the Confederate daughters as a way to push the white advantage that was common in that day. In the 20s, Southern states made laws for all to see that whites still had advantage, even though black folks were free. Today, our eyes are open to the reason that Mouton was put in place at City Hall and stays upon the lawn. Move the mindset, shares the message that our cities better serve to respect each other's equity. Move Mouton where the words of history tell the story true, to keep us mindful of mistakes, to not repeat or rue the day that causes our hearts to break.
Yay!
And now, as we maintain the seriousness of this, I'm going to tell a fish story. My shining fish has lost its way, no longer sees the light of day. How sad that I no longer play among the fish who used to stay. The blackness busted loose from there, where most things stay beyond the layer, but drillers broke because they dared to take its worth without due care. And now we all will pay the price to slowly die without device, to clear the poison from our eyes. Not very nice, not very wise. My shining fish has lost his way, no longer sees the light of day. How sad that we no longer play among the fish that used to stay. That was written after April 20th, 2010. And now, a cattail. Silly Sammy sapsucker in our tree. I come and go, but he hardly sees me. So happy he is with his red throat and cap that I can see him there daily, once taking a nap. He seems not to care about my constant stare, but I will tell you that you better beware, 'cause I'm a cat. So he best not fly down from his perch in the tree to take the place on the ground. One time I saw him staying still as he could, rain soaking his feathers as he clung to the wood of my small native willow that the bird must have loved. He visits it daily from his roost up above. Silly Sammy sapsucker alights on the tree. I come and go, but he hardly sees me, so carefree, so happy with his red throat and cap that I've seen him there daily, once taking a nap. All right, that sapsucker really was in a tree. The developers had cleared a field of lovely wood that was going to end up being a apartment complex, and it sounded like a wounded knee. It was horrible. And Sammy Sapsucker stayed in our willow tree for almost a year before Sally came along. Not this Sally, but another Sally Sapsucker. I thought he'd never find a friend, and he flew off and gate him, and he never came back. Okay, how am I doing? 3? Okay, we can do one more. Let me see. 2 more. Some of us can relate to something like this. Only 24 days. This morning began early for me with much to do, so much to say, not realizing the morning would spiral this way into wasted moments that should be so dear, turn to discourse and anger for no reasons and clear, when each second for only 24 days is slipping so quickly with so much to do. Can't we be mindful of our hearts and our feelings and what's really true? So I asked for a pointer on how things are done. A mission promised, a goal to help someone, not thinking this would be out of line, but the reaction was startling and worried my mind. Okay, don't ask for knowledge. Let her go. Let her see how it feels to be strong. What it's like to be strong. How great for a while to be on one's own. But remember, those days will be here very soon. You will fly far away and not to the moon. These last 24 days, keep in mind the true goal, but don't waste these moments forgetting your soul and your love for each other. For years, we have led by our hearts and our hands and our eyes and our head. Hold my hand for a second. Take time to talk. Share smiles while we can, or take a quiet, peaceful walk, but don't waste these hours too quickly. They pass, and gone we will be at last. And here's my surprise. This is called Scott's Limerick. I live in the city of Scott. It's named for a railroad hotshot. His claim to fame is the town took his name, but no one's sure if it's not. Some say that Scott is his name. Some say he's of Scottish domain. Others think he might be of a Scott family tree, and others wonder if he's even that same. But Scott folks know one thing for sure, that our roots with the railroad endure. Someday I see Warren Buffett may be the focus of our Mardi Gras lure. Imagine the man at the lead condemns all manners of greed and throws to the crowd with a wide a smile, a greenback with every bead. So come by and visit my home. We don't have a lake or a dome, but we're conveniently near to all you hold dear. And when you show up, you won't feel alone. So, here's my sexy part. I'm running. Oh, I'm running for City Council of Scott.
Vote for Teresa. She says, that's me. Teresa. Thank you, Teresa. Before I introduce the last poet, I would like to talk about Festival of Words really quickly. If you've enjoyed tonight, Festival of Words supports ways to inspire creative expression, and they support a higher level of literacy, specifically in St. Landry Parish. And we so appreciate that, and we appreciate the collaboration between Word Crawl and the Festival of Words. So thank you for supporting the Word Crawl tonight. I'm going to introduce Danielle Moreau, who has she has a new book coming out, and I thought it was really funny because she said the title is The Queen of Pas Bon. Does anybody know what Pas Bon means? Yes. The Queen of No Good. I mean, after she said she was the Queen of No Good, I said, oh man, I gotta know this woman. But she has also raised the most amount of sponsors for Word Crawls. So let's give her a big hand, and we have a little token of appreciation. But she's been a writer all her life. She journals short stories, and she's published human interest stories, and now she's working on The Queen of Pas Bon. So come on up, Danielle Moreau, and here's your prize for this evening. I didn't do that. I just give her the gift.
Well, thank you. Thank y'all
so much. This is from the book, Queen of Pavon. It's got 3 characters in it. One is Marie, she's the main character. She has a roommate named Lorleen, and then she has a neighbor named Odetta. Odetta, the local traiteur. I woke up and had my coffee on the back porch. Lorleen opens the door to exit the bathroom. She's all gussied up for the last day of Mardi Gras with her red cowboy boots, blue jean skirt, and a tight V-neck black sweater. Marie, we have to get out of the house today and go pass a good time. It's Mardi Gras, Lorleen says as she brushes the tangles out of her long black locks. We are ready to cavort with happiness. The pig is hot, the landry boys are playing. We need to get going and hurry up and get dressed. I take my time on the back porch, staring at the cows in the pasture. I like the way their eyes are all big and sweet and innocent. Do you smell something, I ask? I gaze to the left and see smoke flying out of Odetta's barn window. Titone must be getting the kettle ready for the cracklings. Black puffs come out of the 6-inch galvanized steel pipe used as a chimney sticking out of the barn window. I remember Odetta telling me about her family's claim to this land. Odetta's daddy was born a free man, given this plot of land in his teens. He started building a decent and simple life when he met Odetta's mother. I look around and realize that she has about 12 acres of heaven. Nice unpainted barn, chicken coop with about 30 chickens, 2 pastures, and a house. How long has she lived there? Lorleen asked as she settles into her outfit by adjusting her skirt. Odetta was born in her house. She told me she met Jack Henry while selling cracklings on the side of the road. She bragged that she looked so hot and sweaty in her dress, he couldn't help but not pull over. After he gave her $1.50, he handed her a note and said he'd be back around 7 p.m. for a proper introduction. Odetta likes manners in a man. She sees it as a sign of true southernness. I don't see him much around the farm, Lorleen turned to face Odetta's house. He travels around in his broken down wagon, sharpening knives for anybody that needs it. She raises chickens and pigs to make ends meet, along with her side job as a traiteur. Oh, I need a healing, and so does Tommy Dean. We might just go take ourselves over there the next time he comes back to town. She turns to look at me with a gaze that went right straight through me. The look that tells me no amount of healing is going to take that love sickness out of her. I wouldn't go to Odetta's anytime soon. She has her hackles up. Some woman from New Orleans came around a couple of days ago looking for a local voodoo queen. She set that lady straight and sent her back over the river where she belongs. There are no voodoo queens in this part of Louisiana, only traiteurs. Traiteurs are faith healers, not practitioners of black magic. Their healing is passed down from mama and mama's mama. The secrets are slowly revealed with each session. They use only good intentions necessary to heal whatever needs coming out. The voodoo queen may use either black or white magic to perform their religious practice, but the traiteur uses herbs and the Virgin Mary to assist in her healings. Now don't get me wrong, Odetta has a tendency to cross some lines, and they become blurry in her trances and chants, but deep down her heart is pure. She is driven by justice, not by revenge. Some of those voodoo queens on the other side of the river don't always have that pure heart, and some revenge can come out, I say. Titone told me that old lady from New Orleans was looking for some revenge for her cheating husband. Odetta set her straight all right. She met her at the door with her shotgun engaged and told her to get back in her fancy car and hightail it back to where she came from. Odetta don't want no part of that. That lady scurried out of there with a tail of dust right behind her, I say. I'm going to check on Odetta to make sure she's just cracklings cooking. You wait here. If you hear me scream, call 911. I get up and head down the porch stairs to the back gate. Odetta, you in there? Her singing and partial humming is streaking through the house. Open up, I plead as I bang on the rusted screen door, half of its hinges about ready to break. I'm afraid of knocking too hard for fear the whole damn thing is gonna hit me in the head. What you want, Marie? I'm sewing. I don't want to stop now.
Just let yourself in, you know the way. I hear Odetta as she slowly opens the door to the small 2-bedroom house. As I walk down the hallway, I can see the old vinyl linoleum coming up on every corner of the rooms. The wear and tear is noticeable, and you can smell a musty odor that won't leave your nose for a while. I don't mind visiting Odetta. Hell, my house is no better. I got floorboards coming up in the kitchen. What are you making, Odetta? It sure looks pretty and mighty fancy. Odetta keeps her eyes on the needle, making sure to keep every stitch in place. All over the water-stained floor are paper pattern cutouts, glitter, scraps of ribbons, lace pieces, yards of purple, green, gold, silk bolts of fabric. I'm making me a robe for my sessions. I'm tired of wearing the hand-me-downs from Father LeBleu. I just don't feel right chanting, smoking, and getting all worked up like I do in his vestments. I feel it's a somewhat sacrilegious. What do you think, Marie? What does it need? Maybe some more sparkle and glitter? Odetta asks me as she finishes the last stitch on the hem. She holds it up to show her finished product proudly. Do you like it? She asks again. It took me a few minutes to take it all in as I look over the velvet dark purple robe with all the gold silk brocade, green rickrack, embroidery that went into it. The main feature of the robe took up the whole backside. Purple, green, and gold sparkled fleur-de-lis. Odetta looks at me proudly in her toothless grin. Now I'm ready for Mardi Gras. Well, I don't have to ask if you're going to the parade today. I think I have my answer. Just make sure you put out that fire under the pot of cracklings before you leave for the hub city. I don't want the whole damn farm burning down. And this is a recipe that I wrote. The first time I ate dove, I thought it was the best thing. My parent taught me this dish when I was 8 years old. We were getting ready to go crawfishing one morning. He and his son came in the back door with some shot doves and dirty boots. My aunt yelled to get those clothes off, and she began to cook this up. Man's job for the recipe. Wake up early around 4 a.m. Put on white boots. Get your bird shotgun. Step outside about 500 yards. Wait until you see doves. Aim carefully and fire. Send dog to get doves in the cane fields. Gut before bringing them to wife. If forget, you'll have hell to pay and no breakfast. Women's job for the recipe. Wake up at 5 a.m. Put on apron. Put on the coffee. Praise husband for remembering to gut doves before bringing them in. Hand husband a beer and get to work boiling and picking feathers. Rinse doves. Make sure all the quills are plucked out. Use tweezers if you have to, like plucking your eyebrows, ladies. Pat doves dry with towel. Rest in milk to take the gaminess out of it. Check carefully for bird shot left in. Mix cornmeal, flour, salt, pepper, cayenne in a brown paper bag. Add doves to bag. Shake real good to get the doves all coated with the mix. Have cast iron skillet ready for frying. Put grits on the stove and start cooking. Add a little salt. Put doves in frying pan. Cook on one side till brown, then turn over. Plate of cooked food served to husband. After breakfast, clean the table, wash dishes, get ready for the crawfish coming for lunch. Cajuns don't measure.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. We want to remind you that if you'd like to make any donations, that there's a bucket going around, right, Patrice? And if you care to keep crawling with us, the next venue is Cité des Arts, 109 Vine Street, and it'll begin right at 10 o'clock. Let's give everyone a big hand. Thank you, AOC, and thank you, Dat Dog, for hosting our event tonight. Thank you for coming out.